Dive deep with us into our next session. Creative technology is destroying how we make art. We are excited to have Jig Tan from Serial Co. to guide us through here. Please welcome.
You guys hear me? Yeah? Okay, cool. I guess I have that? Okay, yeah, okay. Hi everyone, my name is Jig Tan. Here's a collage of some works that we deem as, just to set the context, this is what we deem as creative technology. What you can see behind me is works that span from augmented reality to virtual reality to extended reality. We also have things like optical illusions that come in the form of projection mapping to expand spaces, so on and so forth. So what you just saw were all works created by our small little lean studio called Serial Co, short for Serial Communication. For the tech geeks out there, you'll know what that means. Essentially, I'm also a new media artist, a creative technologist, and I'm an educator at Nanyang Technological University, where I teach the next generation of kids how to imbue programming into design and art. Yes, so today we'll be talking about a little bit of a controversial topic. Creative technology is destroying how we make art. A little bit of a clickbaity title, but I guess what we'll do is we'll dissect what these things are. So we sort of established what creative technology is, so we'll start breaking it down, all right? Cool. So how artists have been threatened by AI is one big contentious topic that I believe everybody is thinking about. The media loves to spin tales about it, but we'll sort of like look into some case studies and then we'll understand why these things are a little bit more controversial and why artists are really vocal about it as well. So this is a work, The Electrician, by Boris Eldagson. It was created by him, but it was also co-created by DALL-E 2. I'm sure everybody here knows DALL-E 2. It's a special image because it won the Sony's World Photography Competition as the first prize. The artist decided to decline the first prize, but what's really interesting about this photo is, to the naked eye, you wouldn't see any differences between this and a traditional artwork. One could make a case that it's taken with a film camera, processed, exposed, and cured on, say, a metal plate, method, and that could be one of the reasons why it kind of fooled the committee into thinking that this was an actual photo work. One dangerous thing about this is that we start to see AI creeping into different facets of traditional or fine art, and that could pose a problem because these competitions are held specifically for traditional photographers to use the film medium or digital format as a medium to take photos. And if judges and the teams start to have to KYC and understand oh, is this a work by AI, we have a lot of complications that will eventually show up. Of course, the idea of society displaced by work is something that the media likes to spin. It's also something that it's not really only affecting just the creative scene, but you can see that machines are starting to veer off and to take specific jobs from other jobs from different sectors as well. So it's becoming a real problem. So I think what we established just now was that art or the subject or the nuance of work it remains unthreatened. Work will still be done. It's just who gets the work done. And in this case, within art, it's the artist that stands to be exposed or will be threatened by AI. This is a small little example that we wanted to showcase. This is beans. Specifically, this is our beans. It's part of this NFT project by Azuki, which is one of the biggest Web3 projects out there. So thus far, this beans belongs to us, and it has served as our Web3 mascot for the past year. We're really proud of these beans. It helped us enter the space, build a community around it. We were doing things like stickers. We turned it into a 3D model, got it animated, put it into AR. People enjoy having the bean pop up from the floor and run around. So these are our beans, but to create stickers like this for social media of our beans, we also realized that it also takes us time, and time is a resource, be it for artists or corporates or organizations. Time is a resource. And in this case, it took a human about 2 hours to bang out this design. It's this meme where you can like do everything at the same time and your world's on fire. But the idea is that we also tried to prompt Runway ML, a diffusion-based generator, on what it dreams or thinks about. So in this case, we are seeing it took about 2 seconds for us to, like, not including the prompting, but to just press a button and let it run. I think that sets this a little bit of an unfair precedence for artists, because now we see artwork being created very easily, very quickly, very cheaply. And as a result, artists may be undervalued because of that issue. So if, let's say, we are able to see machines dreaming or processing, and if we can leave the dreaming to the machines, then what is the role of the human artist? So in the next few slides, we'll explore that. But before that, we want to see if there are any artists who are evolving with technology. All right, so this is, I guess everyone knows Beeple. Beeple sold his first 5,000 days collection at a record high amount. This was one of the works that followed after, Human One. It's a dynamic NFT that essentially pushes the boundaries of how we can perceive the medium of art. And essentially this work allows for people to always go back in and make changes. And as a result, it becomes a dynamic artwork that changes over time. Another example of how artists are using technology is Rafiq Anadol. You may not know his name, but you have probably seen his work because his works are everywhere. It's in Europe, it's in Asia. And this is Machine Hallucinations, one of his more iconic works in MoMA. What he's doing is he's parsing in real-time data and also past data. He's putting it all into a physics sim and a lot more different softwares. And he's able to projection map these onto different architectural spaces. What he's doing is changing how people perceive the spaces architecturally and visually. And I would like to also showcase a very exciting work from Niantic. As a developer as well myself, when this work came out, I was completely awestrucken. Wool is by Niantic Labs. It essentially allows for you, they integrated LLMs or large language models into a AI assistant, this owl called Wool. And you could see it through your phone, but you can also see it through a mixed reality headset like the MetaQuest Pro. This is a perfect example that art doesn't have to be completely visual or as a spectacle. It can also serve a functional role. This also, I guess, in a sense, also is a commentary about how AI avatars are slowly coming to be within our cross-reality realms. So we have seen all these international artists or organizations, designers, developers. Maybe we can also deep dive into one project that we like to showcase and to see how we, as a creative tech studio, have been growing with technology as well. So this is BIOS. What you're seeing right now is our pre-alpha plants that were launched 2 years ago during Singapore Art Week. It's what we call BIOS Living NFTs. It's the world's first NFTs that grow every single day on the blockchain. And each plant is completely unique. They grow differently, and they have all different species and different rarities to them, which are aligned with the actual rarities of them in real life. So we specifically chose aeroids to build on because we were working with this idea of what's the notion of life? How do we perceive life? We wanted to use the subject matter of plants all the way back in 2018, where we had a residency in Austria and Germany, where we used the MRI machine to autonomically look at a bonsai tree. From there, we sort of wanted to understand if a tree that can live forever, how do they perceive life if time was not a factor? Then the sort of idea grew. During COVID, we were under a residency by Hot House, where we were able to speak with botanists and horticulturists to really understand how plants grew autonomically and generatively, if you want to think about it. So we went through several different processes and iterations to reach this stage. We experimented with things like 3D scanning, procedural modeling, using rigging methods, traditional animation methods, and also other forms of technology. And one of those forms of technology back in 2021 that nobody was really talking about was actually diffusion-based models. Is it working? Yeah, it is working. Okay. So it's diffusion-based models, which we use very frequently now. We trained our own data set with Playform a long time ago, and we took pictures of plants in Singapore, 1,000 images to be exact, to train a rather small data set that could feed us local plant textures. These would then be imbued into our NFTs. Every single one of the leaves are completely unique because of AI technology all the way back in 2021. So this was one of our earlier prototypes of how we were shifting. This was like an accelerated simulation of how these plants would then move and grow over time, how every different plant would be unique as well. Okay, so it all culminated into a NFT project that we launched during Singapore Art Week. The plants would grow for 6 months or 180 days. We simulated them to grow for like 2 years, but it got a little bit too bushy. So we stopped the growth at 180 days, where these plants would procedurally grow every single day. There was this idea that we wanted to do, like, or maybe weather data could affect it, and so on and so forth. But what we did was we pegged the idea of, the API of time and date to the plants so that they could grow on-chain. And that was something that was not really done before till we did it. So it culminated to a collection of 256 editions that was sold during Singapore Art Week. Because it was positioned as a fine art project, a lot of the collectors were international galleries, private collectors all over the world. And yeah, that's sort of how we deep dived as a creative tech new media studio into multiple facets and forms of technology to create something that we call creative tech. So I just want to bring back the point that since the dawn of time, where cavemen were using ink, were inventing ink, and they're drawing on caves to replace the idea of the technology of language, to how when we figured out how to mix berries to make pigments for paints, or when we found out the most efficient way to chisel marble, artists have been finding different methods and ways to grow with technology. One informs the other, and they are not separate subjects. And as a result, I think there's this notion that artists are no longer relevant because machines will take over. No, technology has always been growing with us. So I would like to end it with a note from us. You can find us on our website over there, or you can find me on LinkedIn, where if, let's say, you want to talk about art and tech in a local context, you can find me. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. Back. Hi. I guess we have some time for Q&A if anybody has any questions about art and tech or creative technology. It's a really new field. I think not a lot of people are coining the term creative tech, so we're trying to make that push within APAC. Yeah. If anybody has any questions. Yeah. Yeah. Go on. Okay. Yeah, maybe there's no questions. Yeah, it's fine. I'll be like around the space. Oh, there's one question. Okay, cool.
Hi there.
Hi.
My name is Angelique Lavoy. You mentioned that it's relatively a new field, so I was wondering, what do you find to be the hardest thing in order to make it more adoptable within this society?
Ooh, I think that's a great question. I think the word creative technology is relatively new, but I would say it exists in like different facets. I think many people call it art tech. From what I know from more senior artists in Singapore, they call it cyber art in like the 90s, which is like a big thing. So I think one of the hardest things to maybe bring across would be the fact that when we are doing commercial projects, I think there's a perceived notion that because we work with advertising agencies, the prices are always like design-based prices. However, if you think about it, we as creative technologists who deal with AR, for like social media and things like that, we are technically somewhere in between a developer, a designer, and an artist. So it then begs the question, should we be compensated more fairly for those services? I think that's something that everybody's sort of like still juggling with to understand. And I guess the market is not so mature in Southeast Asia in particular when it comes to the idea that science communication and arts being part of a STEM world is very relevant in Europe. It's not really that very seen in Southeast Asia. And I think having platforms like this where we can really push the idea that, hey, arts and design is as important within a STEM world is important. Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you. Any more questions? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we can play the outro music again. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.